A single jump has undoubtedly changed many massive parts of my game. I had been thinking about whether or not I wanted to add a jump for quite a while. In fact, I had been fighting against it. It may appear to be such a simple action, but its presence in the game means a lot. A single jump opens up more avenues and options for the player to explore. They aren't glued to the ground and can at least get over tiny obstacles. After some careful thought, I finally added a jump because it made moving around more interesting and fun. Having a way to maneuver around the environment other than running and walking is vital, especially in games where being meticulous about exploring every corner is rewarded. So I actually started on adding the jump. But I couldn't just force it in, and I didn't want to. I had to free up space for it because there were already a lot of other inputs or actions. Let's take a look. There was already the primary attack, secondary attack, heal, dodge, interact, casting a spell, switching to spell option 1, 2, 3, and 4, as well as the parry, and using the weapon power. I again took some more time to think about how I would want to implement this new change, and I knew I had to either simplify or remove some controls or actions. Some of my greatest ideas come to me while I'm away from my desk. I believe I thought of this new mechanic while I was playing with my cats. Thus came my next big change. In order to free up space for a single button, I decided to shift 2 buttons into a different mode. The casting spell input and weapon power input would instead be used in what I'm temporarily calling spell mode. The player can now switch between these 2 modes. One will utilize their normal weapon attacks, while the other is how they cast their spells. More happens after that, but let's get back to the jump first. With the jump finally added, there were a few more things to fix. I made sure the jump couldn't happen during other actions, and for now, it's a pretty rudimentary jump. I'm not making a platformer game where there's going to be a lot of technical gymnastics involved. I already had a falling attack implemented, but I had to make sure it worked together with the jump. I cleaned it up a bit, and currently it works fine. As of now, jumping costs lucidity, just like dodging. I don't think I want to make it as important or major as the other actions, because I simply want it to be a tool to get around and traverse the world. Well, I say that now, but things may change, who knows. And returning to the new spell mode. Previously, I had the spell resource on an integer count, and the heal used the same resource or pool. I was fine with that, but after this change, it somehow didn't sit right with me. I'm always reluctant to add new resources because not only is it more work, but there's a certain design simplicity and efficiency I'm aiming for. That being said, I did feel that it was necessary to add a mana pool or resource for the spells. In order to keep it easy and efficient, the amount of the spell resource is the same as the player's maximum lucidity. This resource works exactly as expected and starts full. Each spell has a different cost, and it will drain the spell resource once the player has cast that spell. I took inspiration from a video game called Bloodborne, one of my favorites. It had trick weapons. These were weapons in the game that had 2 modes that fought very differently. If the player switched modes while attacking, there was a special type of attack. I basically did the same thing here. The player can easily switch between spell mode and combat mode, but if they are doing so while attacking, there will be a unique move. I still have to add more to this, but right now I'm glad I just got it working. Since the spells use their own new resource pool, the old resource was only being used by the heal. That was quite intentional. I had been going back and forth on this for a while because I didn't know if I wanted the healing resource to be rechargeable or finite. For a while now, the heal was rechargeable, but I've returned it to being finite. The implication of making it rechargeable meant that the player may actually feel less pressure in combat. If they know they can continue to heal, then what's the risk there? Having dwindling and limited resources puts pressure and hopefully communicates to the player that they must be more careful or sometimes even more aggressive. Every few level ups, the limited amount of the healing resource will go up on its own. While in spell mode, the heal will return mana instead of lucidity. So there are more decisions for the player to make, and I think that adds to the fun. Another change, albeit a little more minor because of the new spell mode, was to the player's animations. The spell mode uses the idle animation from the staff. I wanted there to be a clear visual difference between both modes, so I instead had all the weapons use the same animations. In the animation blueprint, it now only switches based on the spell mode. So it's clear, hopefully clear to the player which mode they're in. I also added to the player's left hand a visual representation of their current spell selection. This is heat, cold, and shock. So all of that change was brought by and inspired by the single jump action. Besides all that, another new feature I added just yesterday was a camera. It's part of the room abilities that the player can unlock. Currently, it can only be used in the room, but I'm sure eventually I will make it available when exploring around the world. First off, what is its purpose? It can take pictures of anything around the room. Then, there is a gallery the player can look at the pictures that they have taken. I'm planning to add a feature that will allow the player to select a photo and place it in a picture frame around the room. That part probably won't be easy. So how does the camera work on a technical level? I watched some tutorials and got a basic idea of how to implement it. Using a scene capture 2D component, which is, I believe, some type of camera in the Unreal Engine, it can take a snapshot of what it's looking at and turn it into a 2D texture. With that flat texture, I can send it to a widget that displays the photo. One tutorial showed me how to make a simple effect as if the photo was fading in, and I'm a really big fan of this effect. Quick tangent, UMG is Unreal Motion Graphics. It's the tool to make all the UI or user interface in the games. It's a lot. Right now, I've already made several menus, bars, boxes, buttons, etc. Anyway, this photo is then added to the player's photo gallery, and as of now, they can select the photo and delete it if they wish. I didn't know how to get this working at first, but it was as simple as adding an invisible button on top of the photo itself. So when the player clicks the photo, they grab a reference of it. With that reference working, hopefully, it won't be too big of a challenge to create picture frames. But I can already imagine the issues I'll be running into, such as telling the game to remember what photo is in what specific picture frame. I'm only halfway through the room abilities. I still have 4 more that I want to come up with, and it's on my to-do list. I'm not sure what else I can add. It might not seem important, especially because it has nothing to do with the other half of the game, but I'm trying to create a space outside of the combat that is still fun and exciting to play around with. Next week, I'll be refining the transitions between spell mode and attack mode, and then improving more of the photo gallery's functionality. It was quite a week this week, and I'm going to take it easy for the day and this weekend. Rest is just as important, if not more important, than progress. So take it easy out there. Peace out.